nationally, research-based skills that every kindergarten student that walks in the door should have just from being 5 years old. So that's really helped even out the referral process on both sides for our younger students. And it's really helped us close the gap earlier rather than later. We were just getting a lot of referrals when the kids were getting up into the grades, 4th and 5th, and now it's happening sooner, and we're addressing those needs when they need to be met. So.
Use the example for small groups that kids are generally, you use the example of like you're on 5th grade level, you're in 5th grade with the 2nd grade reading level, and then you were talking about, was it collaborative? You said there weren't any kids currently in there, but so what would the general, what would an example be for a student in that group, how far they are behind? Or would they not be behind it? Right.
Well, again, like I said, when you come to an IEP meeting, you're sitting with a team of people that includes parents, possibly administrators, speech therapists, special education teachers, and you're coming up with a plan that's going to be that student. So what might fit one student isn't going to fit everybody.
Or just like an average.
And there's no cookie cutter IEP for a child with autism or a child with a learning disability. So a collaborative group, again, what I stated earlier, is typically a student who is meeting grade level expectations with accommodations and modifications, and may just need a little bit of specialized instruction for part of that segment, whether it be a reading language arts segment or a math segment.
And truly, that's how they came up with the name Individual Education Plan, because it's for each student. Each student is going to have a different plan.
When it comes to doing assessments for like letter sounds and letter recognition, is there a test in place to determine if it's truly just not understanding it or not knowing it, or if there's like another issue like dyslexia, for instance, to be able to recognize?
There's not a specific test for dyslexia, and believe it or not, letter reversals in and of themselves are developmentally appropriate all the way through the end of 2nd grade. I know they freak us out at home though. They never personally experienced, so I feel your pain. So letter reversals could be an indication, and other things are as well, but we don't have a straightforward test, but the system has a test to determine if there are processing deficits. And processing deficits lead to learning disabilities. So if a child is not processing words correctly, that's going to show up on our formal education assessments that are done in between Tier 3 and Tier 4. But as a test for dyslexia, no, there's no way to determine if a kid's just struggling and just hasn't gotten to that point developmentally yet, or if they truly have a reading disability. And sometimes it's very difficult to tell. But the neat thing is that the interventions you put in place are the same either way. So it's not like, okay, this only works for students with dyslexia and this only works for students who are just struggling readers. Really, the interventions are the same. So we can put something in place whether we know the true label or not. Good question.
In Tier 1, when every child's being, what do you call it, screened, or, does the child know that they're being screened, or is it just like, you guys color, and then little Billy's going to come over here with me for a second, or are they told, now we're going to do screening, Billy?
Well, in the directions that the teacher reads, it does say, now we're going to complete a test that requires you to identify the letters in each row. When I say begin, you'll have 60 seconds to name as many letters as you can. But it's not,
But they don't understand.
okay, boys and girls, I need you to sit tight while I pull each one of you over here to do an assessment with you.
And they don't know necessarily what we do. Most teachers say, I'm trying to find out what you already know so that I can best teach you this year. So you need to do your best so that I know exactly what you already know and I can teach you what you need to know.
And how heavily is the psychological portion of it evaluated to see if there is an actual learning disability or if they're just kind of freezing up when being presented with some sort of test?
Right. So that comes, go ahead.
Well, to get to that point, again, it would have to go through the RTI student's difficulties may be the result of some type of disability. And during that type of testing, it is a full comprehensive evaluation depending on where the difficulty areas are. Typically, it includes IQ, like a cognitive assessment, and achievement too. But if the child's having difficulties in behavior, you know, they could administer behavior assessments. If the child may be having cognitive deficits, they would also do adaptive behavior testing as well. So it really depends on the child, where we're seeing the deficits, and so how many tests would be administered. But typically, they're administered over several tests over several days.
And something we neglected to mention is none of that testing, the full psychological assessment, is done without your permission. Now tiers 2 and tiers 3, those interventions are put in place. Of course, we want to all be on the same team, but that's not something you're going to check off and say, yes, I agree to the PALS reading intervention. That's just part of our instruction here. And because it's still in the general education program, it's done without, you know, we include you in the team decision making, but we don't actually have to have a signed piece of paper. But once you move to a full psychological and education evaluation, you do sign permission. We cannot do that testing without your approval. And then if your child comes back eligible for special education services, we cannot move forward with special education services without your approval as well, okay?
And you're also part of the student support team as well. Parents are part of that student support team meeting, which is tier 3, to create a formal plan for students who are struggling.
And Jason Posey, we forgot to mention his name. He's our school psychologist. We have a new school psychologist this year, and he's fantastic. So we're glad to have him on board as well.
Sorry, I'm full of
No,
questions.
you're fine, Sarah.
In terms of, I guess it would be, this could encompass a lot of both general education students and children who are getting special instruction. But I know sensory integration is a big issue for our child too. Is there a process for dealing with that? Like sometimes children then shut down if there's ambient noise and things like that?
Part of what the kindergarten through second grade teachers do is they actually implement a program that involves sensory integration. It's called a Smart Reading Program, where they actually have the students sound stretch words, and they use multi-sensory techniques to teach about letter sounds, making sounds, what sounds letters make.
Sensory diets can also be part of an instructional plan or an actual individual educational plan. So that's kind of the discussion we were having about behavior. It doesn't necessarily mean office referrals, off-task behavior, or it's too much noise and I can't focus. We put interventions in place for that sensory overload, even in SST. So, for example, we used to have a student who after lunch just had a hard time then getting focused again. So every day she took 2 packs of paper. It was a team decision. It wasn't punishment. But that was her afternoon plan. She ran an errand for the teacher that put a little bit of strain on the muscles, kind of brought her down, relaxed her. She took it down to the office, 2 packs of paper, went back up, then started her next. So specific things that each child needs, like when their motor's running high or low, we can put that in place at any tier. Some kids have rubber bands, those giant rubber bands on their seats, so they can flex their feet against them while they work because they have to be doing something. Some kids have the balls. The balls tend to be a disaster every time we try them. Keep hoping one kid's really gonna, we've had sand everywhere, but we put in place what we feel like will work for that kid. And if it doesn't, we come back to the drawing board. But we really tried it all. We have some kids who sat on balls and
So if there's something that maybe as a parent you felt like it hasn't come up so much as in the classroom other than there's some off-task behavior
Right.
or this all the time and we're not listening, is that something we could come to you guys and say
Certainly.
like maybe
Yeah.
we can come up
We
with?
encourage that.
Okay,
And we also encourage the teachers to come to us as well.
right.
thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks.
What about access to tutorials that start September 10th?
Yeah, that's September 11th is Wednesday. The tutorial start on Wednesday. Those groups are very small. So we literally give each teacher maybe 3 to 5 permission slips. And the reason why those groups have to be small is because they're intense. We start at 2:40 and at 3:30. And if a teacher has 12 to 15 students, that defeats the purpose of the after-school tutorial. So it's really for those students who are struggling or having difficulty with skills that are preventing them from mastering concepts. So we're working below grade level. Students don't stay for tutoring for organizational skills. They stay for tutoring for academic skills. Okay? So if you receive one of those permission slips, then that's another way that we provide additional support for students who are having some difficulty.
And some teachers flip it, so this month or these next 8 weeks, I'm gonna work on reading, and so I have these kids. And then I'm gonna work on math, and so they're pulling different groups. So it depends on the structure. They try to go by high need.
And the groups are supposed to be fluid, so a student goes to tutoring for 2 or 3 weeks, masters the skill, is out of the program. It's not supposed to be a year-long process unless a student is really, really having difficulty.
And their own teachers?
Yeah, they stay with their own teachers? Yes.
We do, I mean, I have in the past 2 years, just because I have meetings on Wednesdays, I'll think of this. But the special education teachers do provide tutoring as well. So sometimes what would happen is, let's say, a general education teacher that, especially let's say Ms. Patterson's teaching a group of students, that general education teacher may say, she's gonna pick, like, which students do you want to work with, and of course we want it to be effective in her classroom as well. So it just depends on who she talks to and what group of students. But special education teachers, and I think with the specialist teachers.
Some Marvel tutors,
Yeah, so
challenge teachers tutor.
Yeah.
They focused specifically on writing last year with the 5th grade students or 3rd grade students.
So we try to be creative with our staff too, to help tutor. Yes.
So for the special education tutoring, will there be programs that are good for the autism group as well? Would that be a
Well,
good
our
fit?
autism unit,
or-
I failed to mention this right now, is kindergarten through 2nd grade.
Right, okay.
So we don't have any students who are under Ms. Watkins' case management that don't fall in those grades.
But for tutoring.
Yeah, for tutoring though.
It was tutoring, because Kate to the tutoring.
We didn't talk to Ms. Watkins about that,
Yeah.
but it's in her contract that she stays after.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I'm sure she'll be able to work something out.
okay.
So those students will be included. So it's open to all the students.
And the PALS training is happening? Or training?
Ashley was just
sorry,
using that for an example.
Oh, my bad, Kristen.
Yeah, that's how we pull the staff together. Yeah, we would say, okay, we're going to train the staff on a certain day.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Nothing's happening Friday afternoon.
Especially on a weekend.
So
So we can offer
a
those.
memo from the staff saying they're going to have a social at 3:01 somewhere on campus. And no one's going to show up for the training. But I would like to give a shout out to Don. Don Edwards fixed the playground. So thank you. A lot of happy students
Priorities.
and a happy nurse. So, well, thank you all for coming today. Yeah, Teresa, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to thank Aurora Coffee for donating their coffees, and Valerie Tutu for,
Excellent.
and also Julie Noble has, announcement about.
I just want to give a plug, starting when Renaissance kicks off. Really, the day we get back from our long weekend, the pep rally is on Tuesday. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you can come to it, your kids would be thrilled to see you. The K through 2 is at 12:30, and then
12:45.
to 1:30.
Yes.
Okay, and then we
3
start at 3
to
to
5,
5 at
1:30.
1:30. Okay, but if you stick
Can you,
with
can you
the
say that again? That was confusing.
Okay.
I didn't get it.
Well, if you can get here at noon to help us set up, that means that. We don't block the time, basically 12 to 2 would be great, but the kindergartners through 2nd grades would be parading into the gym at 12:45 for a half-hour program. We have Homer from the Braves, Other silly parents are gonna help us do stuff. Music, we're gonna give away prizes. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So that kicks off our big fundraiser, which will then culminate in our event on the 13th, which is the following Friday, Friday the 13th. So if you come to both, that'd be great. Come to one, find out more information on the website.
When is 3rd through 5th? Just after?
Just after,
Okay.
we get a little break to take a breath,
Okay.
get our pom-poms back, get them back out. Yeah.
Vicki?
Just listening to you, I think you could maybe on the website you mentioned. But
Yes.
I knew some, I don't know how many people I knew here, but I heard a lot of people say they just had no idea what that was and there, so I don't know if you can maybe say
Well,
about it.
instead of, there are lots of ways that you can raise money for school, right? We could send our kids home with cookie dough, or wrapping paper, or, other kind of punitive ways to raise money. And instead what we do is we basically have a fundraiser at the beginning of the year, we say, give what you want, give what you can.
I know, but I
Oh,
think some people don't.
and then we have a fun event where the kids get to run. It's an outdoor, healthy exercise party, basically. Not related, the pledges aren't tied to how much they run. They don't have to run at all. They can skip and dance or whatever. But it's kind of a way to have a party, raise all our money at once, and not have to eat cookie dough all year.
It was very successful last
And
year, and a
100,
lot of fun.
that's right, 100% of the funds stay at Mary Lynn. The other way to do this is to hire somebody to throw a big party, but then they take some of your money. So the parents kind of figured we could do it ourselves. It's not easy. We do need a lot of help. So if you feel like you could volunteer, that'd be great. And it'll all be quick. Like the whole thing takes a week and a half, and then done for the year.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, everyone.
Everybody have a great
Brian,
weekend.
thanks for reporting.